Do you have what it takes to become the best Bond villain of all time? Find out in Spectre the Board Game as you scheme and plot to complete missions and further your rank in the Spectre organization. I'm Matt Mitchell and this is Table Talk Reviews. Spectre was designed by the K-Dama team and published by Modiphius Entertainment for 2 to 4 players. Allow me to teach you how to play and then we can discuss the game. To set up the game, place the board and the 007 token on the table. Fill the resource supply spaces with the matching tokens. The resources are gold, intel, and blueprints. Set aside On Her Majesty's Secret Service mission card. This will always be your first mission of the game. Shuffle the mission card deck and draw 6 mission cards and add On Her Majesty's Secret Service on top. Shuffle the secret plan cards and deal each player 1 card. If any player is playing Rosa Klebb, they will be dealt a 2nd card. The remaining cards are placed in their spot on the board. Each player chooses a villain they'd like to play and chooses a player color, taking all the pieces of that color. If someone is playing Blofeld, they'll take the number 1 plaque. Then the player with the highest roll will take the highest available rank, continuing down until all ranks have been distributed. If you roll a Bond icon, it counts as 0. Place the Spectre tokens for each player on the start space in rank order, with number 1 on top. For each named space on your villain board, take a scheme token and place it covering that ability. Each villain has special ongoing abilities or starting conditions, as well as 1 unique action and then a finalized action that will be used to unlock their other actions on their board. Distinct schemes with no symbol in between can be finalized in any order. Schemes with a small chevron in between must be constructed in order from left to right. There are a few different types of schemes. Some are just ongoing abilities, such as cloning technology, which when placing your villain pawn, also place your henchman pawn. That becomes active going forward from when it's finalized. Others require specific pawns to be placed, either your villain pawn or your henchman pawn. Some can have either. Schemes with a lightning bolt are instantaneous and one time. For example, Scuba Divers lets Largo deploy 2 agents into Region 3 and then move all of their agents in Region 3 to other regions. To win the game, players want to advance on the Spectre track and be as high rank as possible within the Spectre organization. When the game ends, the player furthest on the Spectre track wins the game. The game can end in one of 2 ways. There are no remaining mission cards, or Emilio Largo finalizes his drop the bomb scheme. A round begins with number 1 revealing the mission card and reading it aloud. Brainwash spa patients to spread neurotoxin. The objective listed here in this case is special for the first mission, and it's to place agents anywhere on the board. Later missions will require you to place agents in specific regions, such as the Spectre mission requires agents in Region 7. Some missions will require one of the players to place their villain pawn on the mission card. Some missions have no objectives and will only have a bid phase. Then in rank order, players will take turns placing their villain pawn, the one with the circular base, into a region and take the associated actions. In this case, I place 1 agent cube into Region 2 and take 2 blueprint resources. Placing in Region 3 lets me place 1 agent into Region 3 and another agent into Region 3, 7, or 8. In this case, let's just put it in Region 3. Region 4 lets me place 1 agent in Region 4 and spend 1 resource of any type to move 1 space on the Spectre track. The action spaces with the tinted backgrounds switch in the middle of the board to the top half, but the action icons are the same, placing agents in a specific region and taking the specified resources. Once all players have placed their villain pawns, they will take turns in rank order, placing their henchman, the one with the square base, into any available spaces that remain. The villain and henchman pawns could instead be placed onto your villain board to take your unique action or the finalized action to unlock one of your schemes. Once all henchmen have been placed, check each region for majority starting in Region 2. Players will gain the majority token for having the most agents in the region, as well as the bonus action for that region. Region 2 allows you to move one agent from any region on the board to any other region. Because this happens first, it can disrupt the majorities in other regions. Some secret plans will require you to have the majority token for a specific region, which you'll see shortly. Region 3 gives you 2 gold resources. Region 4 gives you 2 blueprint resources. Region 5 lets you advance 1 space on the Spectre track for free. Region 6 gives you 1 resource of your choice. Region 7 gives you 2 intel resources. And Region 8 lets you move 3 agents from any regions on the board to any other regions. If there are multiple agents tied for majority in a region, or no players have majority, the majority token remains in the region and no players take the bonus. Now move on to the mission card. For an example of resolving a mission, let's look at the Spectre mission. First, we see if there are any agents in Region 7. If there are no agents in that region, or for missions where you have to place a villain pawn on the mission card and no one has done it, the mission automatically fails and players suffer the text on the bottom. Discard all intel resources. If the mission hasn't failed immediately, players must bid resources of the specified type to attempt to have the mission be a success. Missions need to reach a point threshold for them to succeed. For 2 players, that's 6 points, 3 players, 8 points, and 4 players is 10 points. For missions where agents need to be in a specified region, the number of agents in that region are worth 1 point each, and then all resources bid by players are worth an additional point. The mission succeeds if the players meet or exceed the point threshold for the number of players. If the mission is successful, all players who bid resources will collect a new secret plan card. Then the player with the most total mission points can complete one of their secret plans and advance the number of spaces on the Spectre track as indicated. In this example, Region 7 has 6 agents in it in a 3-player game, so at least 2 resources will need to be bid for the mission to succeed. The red player has 4 mission points from their agents in the region and bid 2 resources for the mission to succeed, so they win the mission and get to complete one of their secret plans. For missions with an objective to place a villain pawn on the card, the player who places their villain pawn will have 3 mission points contributing to this mission. To bid on a mission, take all the resources of the specified type on the mission card in hand. Secretly choose a certain number, close them in your fist, present that on the table, and all players will reveal simultaneously. All bid resources are returned to the supply piles. Here are a few example secret plan cards. All secret plans have a green value, which is the number of spaces you advance on the Spectre track if you complete this card and it remained hidden. If the card is revealed by a 007 roll or revealed at the end of the game, you will score the number of spaces in the red value. Some secret plans require you to have a majority token for a specific region. To complete that secret plan, you need to return that token to the game board. So at the end of the game, if you had 2 secret plans that required the same majority token, you'd only be able to complete one of them. There may be additional requirements as well, such as having at least 2 agents in Region 6, or having finalized a scheme and removed the token from your board. Some secret plans will want you to spend resources. It may also indicate for you to spend resources below, such as here, because it has the majority token listed there. And finally, other missions will want you to have either your henchman or your villain in a specific region. When you complete your secret plan card, advance the number of spaces on the Spectre track. If you advance onto or past one of the red Spectre icons on the track, you can immediately take any of the villain actions on your player board, even if a villain or henchman pawn is already present. These spaces are also safe houses, so if another player was on that space and we failed this mission that requires all players to move back 1 space on the Spectre track, the blue player would not move. However, all other players would move back 1 space. Once the mission is resolved, number 1 will roll the dice and 007 will interfere with Spectre's plans. If you roll 2 bond icons, all players remove 1 agent from every region on the board. If 2 numbers are rolled, total them up and Bond visits this region. All agents currently in the region are removed. Place the Bond token there. This is a reminder that this area is now blocked. You will not be able to place villain or henchman pawns, and no agents can be placed in that region, even by other region actions. If a number is rolled with a Bond icon, the player with the matching rank will get to choose one of their opposing villains to send Bond to. If you're playing with less than the number of players, such as playing with 3 players only, a 4 counts as a 1. If you're playing with 2 players, 3 will count for player 2. So in this case, in a 3-player game, a Bond icon and a 4 would mean that the number 1 ranked player gets to choose another player for Bond to visit. If an opposing villain chooses to make Bond visit your villain, they choose one of your schemes with these tokens still available on it, flip it over, increasing the cost by 2 additional resources. Additionally, Bond forces you to reveal one of your secret plan cards, putting it face up on the table and decreasing the value. Now look at the Spectre track and redistribute the rank plaques based on this order. If a player is on the same space, the player on top who most recently advanced to that space is the higher rank. In this case, red would take number 1 and green would take number 2. All players may now retrieve their villain and henchman pawns and start a new round. Agents are left on the board. If any player is playing Emilio Largo, their villain pawn will remain on the board. If Largo is green in this case, the green villain pawn would block space 6, and on Largo's turn to place their villain pawn, they will instead move it from this region to another region. When there are no mission cards available, or Emilio Largo finalizes his drop the bomb scheme, starting with rank number 1, players will reveal their secret plan cards and complete them if possible, advancing the number of spaces on the Spectre track for the red value. Now whichever player is furthest on the Spectre track wins the game. Right off the bat, I can tell you that Spectre is better than the reputation that licensed games have for being trash games, but it's not great either. Let's go over the positives first before I get a little negative. The concept of the game is great. The villains are trying to work together to further Spectre's organization, but they're all out for themselves trying to be number 1. The worker placement spots are really easy to understand, and it has that great tension you want in a worker placement game of players taking the locations you were planning to go to on your turn. As well, there are great catch-up mechanics in this game. If you're ranked 4th, you just fully advance 1 space on the Spectre track, allowing you to catch up a lot faster. And if you're in 3rd place, you can bid 2 resources and you're going to get those back, which gives you a better chance at winning a mission so you can complete those secret plan cards and catch up, advancing more spaces on the Spectre track. Now let's take a look at some of the things I didn't like about Spectre. The mission process is very convoluted. It's kind of confusing to explain to new players, so you have this mission, it can fail outright if we just don't do the objective, but if we do the objective, it's still not successful. We also have to bid on the mission for it to complete, and then one person is going to win the mission. We have to count up all the mission points. It's a little bit much for new players and is not that easy to explain. Hopefully I did a good job in this video. If I did, hit that like button. And then worse is the rule book. There are just rules that are straight up not in the rule book. The villain boards have schemes that have a little arrow pointing left to right, which would imply that you have to build those in order, and some of them, based on the text of the scheme, you would have to have the other ability available to even need that ability. So why was that not explained in the rulebook? And there's other issues with the rulebook. The way it's laid out Some things are not where you would expect it, so if you're looking for it, you have to look all over. Special rules for each of the villains are sometimes split up across multiple pages in different boxes for some reason. It was just a not well-written rulebook whatsoever, which really made it hard to get into the game and just have a smooth, enjoyable experience. As well, the production on this game is lacking. The villain and henchman pawns are almost indistinguishable except for their base, and every time I pull this game off the shelf, I have to check which one is which to remind myself. You could have had unique villain minis and then generic henchman pawns, and that would have just made the game a little bit more thematic and more appealing to collectors. As it is, the game is kind of thematic. I do like the 007 role because you get that feeling of the villains putting their plans in motion and then Bond randomly comes and messes with them. Sometimes when he visits one of the villains, then you're caught monologuing, explaining your secret plan, and you have to reveal that to the table and it becomes worth less points. So that was pretty decent. Overall, I was disappointed in this game from a board game perspective because it was lacking in production and rule clarity. But as a Bond fan, it is still fairly neat. The only thing I will say is that there's no special pieces in this that if you're a collector, you would buy this game just to have, even if you didn't like board games. So if you're a board game, there's better worker placement games out there for you. If you're a Bond fan who doesn't play board games, there's no real special collector value for this game for you. And if you're both, you might be able to push past the brutal rule book to get a just okay board game experience. So I'm not really sure who this game is for because I don't think either group is going to be pleased with it. I can only hope that I clearly explain the rules to you, and hopefully that will make your experience with this game better. If it does, please subscribe, and if you want to check out more board game recommendations, I'll have some videos right here.